I remember I was liking this main deck a good bit, so maybe we should just circle back to that, and then we can cut the cursed totems from the main, and then we can think about main decking Chalice over Trinisphere. So Trinisphere is kind of good in general with the land destruction plan, but I wonder if Chalice is just better in general. So Chalice is kind of better against Tron. It's better against Energy. It's better against. I guess it's not better against Wizards. It is better against Jeskai, I think, by like a little bit. I guess they have a lot of one drops that's important to turn off. So yeah, I think that that's fine. It's also like it's worse against Storm than Trinisphere, but it's still very good against Storm Trinisphere, or it's still very good against Storm. So I think it's probably just something we want to keep in. So I still want these two Emrakuls. I think that I'll end up wanting to have the third copy of Hearse in the board, and then we could go back to Voidmere over Acid-Moss. Maybe we should keep that. We should probably keep the Acid-Mosses in. Any thoughts on Pioneer? I mean, I'm a little bit more interested in playing the format. Is Trinisphere better than Chalice, given how popular Ruby Storm is lately? Well, Chalice is also really good against Ruby Storm. And then Chalice on 1, I think, is just really nice in the deck. No Curse Totems for Yogg. No, I don't think so. I mean, Yogg is like still just not really a deck that I am wanting to prepare for when I'm registering my modern decks. It could be at some point, but I think right now I'm not there. Two Emrakuls, still liking those in the sideboard. Format does open up a lot. Don't think I don't want the fourth Hearse. Is there anything else we can play for the energy matchup? Because right now we're kind of just running it back, which is I think fine to just kind of run it back. But is there anything that we could be playing that's like really good against them? Not really, I think. How do you think about the bans and new meta? Well, we've talked about it kind of nonstop. Let's wait a little bit. Let me get this going and we'll yap some more about it. Yeah, probably playing a couple All's Dust on the board is correct. Somehow Eldrazi decks deplete my serotonin. Well, sorry to hear that. Seeing that in chat depletes my serotonin. So like post. So I think I want to cut the Wumpus. Well, Wumpus is not that bad against them. Rulebreaker is kind of bad against them. Let's just start with this. Yeah, I do agree. Just a couple of sweepers are important against them. I don't love the main deck all as dust because it's pretty bad with the fanatics and the sixes and sixes. Six and Fanatic are so good in this archetype. It's like honestly not that good in Necro. Like it's a card you play in Necro, but it was like by far the worst in Necro than it's ever been like in a deck, I think. Kind of tough to even evaluate. And it does seem like the banning of Grief was almost entirely vibe based. Just mostly like this card and it's just time for it to go. Which it just felt like a very odd announcement. Very interesting. It's banned in Legacy, but not restricted in Timeless. Yeah, does Timeless and Historic, do they follow the same BNR schedule? Or they just managed separately? I have no idea. Yeah, the ban should already be in place. Okay, let's bring in this over the Tech Edge. Bringing in Emrakuls over Wumpus, I think. Or maybe over... Breakers are also fine. Yeah, just over the Wumpus, just have a slightly higher curve. Maybe they think Necro will get better with Nadu banned because they wanted the play patterns of Scam Grief into Necro to not exist because of that. Yeah, I mean, yes, maybe. Necro's a really weird deck to talk about because it had a really good Pro Tour. Necro had a really good Pro Tour, and then I think it's just not been that much of a deck post MH3. It's like fine. GG Screw. But I don't know, it's kind of fallen off. It's very odd. How do I feel about the One Ring not being banned? Well, I'll give my opinion on this for the first time. live on stream here. I again personally, I just do want to see what Modern is like sans Nadu, and I thought it was not the right time to ban the ring, and I didn't feel like the ring was a card I would ban. If it was banned, hypothetically, I wouldn't have shed tears for it, but I would have preferred to see it not go. It is a card that is kind of clunky. It is a card that you can plan for to defeat. There are a lot of archetypes that are good against the ring. I think that I think the ring also like punishes both energy and Jeskai in a way that I kind of like in the metagame. I wouldn't have banned it. But I do think that their reasoning for banning Grief is super disconnected for their reasoning for not banning Ring in a way that is very odd and kind of unsettling. I don't know. The Grief ban was like entirely vibe based. It's entirely just people think this card's unfun, we're gonna ban it. They say in the article the Grief ban is not for metagame percentage, it's not for win percentage. It is a vibe based ban, and the ring also would have been a vibe based ban, but if I was gonna ban one on vibes, I would have banned the ring, and it's just a very confusing ban overall. I shed no tears for Grief, but I'm confused with the decision. They literally just use the Pro Tour results for Grief. Really? What's drawing that conclusion for you? Because it's like the Grief was good at Necro, but like Goryo's like was not a factor really at the Pro Tour, and Goryo's had like kind of become one of the better decks post PT. I think we'll just eternalize here. Maybe I'm missing something. Solar with the 3 months. Thank you. Welcome back. Goodbye, Nadu. We get to keep Grief. Okay, I've not been to Shauna's Tidebinder in a while. Can Yawgmoth be a deck right now? I do think Yawgmoth can be a deck. I might try to work on it tonight. It's a very confusing archetype to work on. Wasn't Goryo's the best performing deck at the PT after Nadu? I believe Living End was the best performing deck at the PT besides Nadu, and I believe that. Oh, sorry. I believe Living End was not Goryo's, and I believe that Goryo's was incredibly unrepresented at the event. That's my recollection, although it's been a little bit of time. Goryo's was 10-0 and constructed MH3. So, I mean, 10-0 is one player played Goryo's at the event. That just isn't like 10-0 is obviously really good, and I do agree that Goryo's is super good at Modern, but to say that like one player going 10-0 is them making a BNR is like just, you know, like Merfolk went 10-0 or 8. I think Merfolk had the highest win rate at Pro Tour Barcelona because one player played it and did really well. The One Ring has no downside in almost all the decks that are playing it. The life loss doesn't matter at 95% of games. Just sincerely, I want to communicate to you, Yura. The ring has no downside in almost all the decks that are playing it. The life loss doesn't matter in 95% of the games. This comment is out of touch and inaccurate. This is very not true. Very much not true to say that the life loss doesn't matter in the ring decks. It is, in fact, you cannot play a ring deck that has no way to gain life or no way to like there are no ring decks that don't play life gain. It just does not happen that you can play a deck with the One Ring that doesn't play life gain. This is a comment that is something that you might get a lot of upvotes on Reddit with, but I just if you're open, you know, this is also the kind of comment that usually isn't open to feedback on, but I just want to convey to you that this comment is very out of touch. You're wrong, Amulet Titan. Okay, so I should say ring decks like Twiddlestorm and Amulet Titan can combo kill. Although Amulet Titan is also not really part of the metagame. But you're right. So there are some combo decks that play the ring that don't play life gain. That's true. Tron gains life? Yeah, Tron has life gain. Either Tron decks play Cookbook for Emrakul and for ring life gain, or they play Breaker of Creation. But you're right, I am wrong. They're combo decks. But to say that the life loss is irrelevant in 95% of games is incredibly out of touch and an inaccurate statement completely. Yeah, but that is true. There are combo decks that break this convention, and you were right about that. It's a pretty good one. So I think now that I want to make sure this wasn't getting consigned, but now that I have woodlands to copy the 6 with, I think I can probably attack with the Seer, or sorry, with the 6, and then I can attack with the Seer also, because they won't be able to kill both on the blocks here. It's close to impossible to play a fair game against an active ring, and that's the problem. I also think that this is not true. This is not true, and I think you can have decks that are bad at beating the ring, but I think this is also not true. If you have a Leyline Binding, if you have Orcish Bowmaster, if you have Karn the Great Creator, if you have Shieldred, if you have Pithing Needle, if you have Spell Pierce, if you have Counterspell, there's a long list of cards that you can put into your deck where you can play a fair game against the ring. You can play Haywire Might. This is to say that it's almost impossible is just. I mean, I've been doing it on stream for like a year and a half now. I play a lot with and against the ring. There is, some decks are better against it, some decks are worse against it, but I've been I've been beating the ring and losing with it, and it's a 4-mana card advantage spell. I don't know. The ring is a good modern card. I agree that the ring is a good modern card, but some of the comments about it are just very agenda-y. It's okay for you to hate the ring. It's okay for you to want it to be banned, but we don't need to resort to saying things that just are out of touch and But yeah, maybe the best argument to banning the ring is we would have been done with these conversations that had already dominated the chat for a long time. I don't know if I'm remembering correctly, the first few days after Ring came out, and since it was announced, people didn't think too much of it, right? I think generally people didn't think too much about it. I was really high on it. And then I think the Bowmaster decks in general contained it. Force of Negation decks contained the ring in a big way. I don't know. The ring is very good. It is a conversation. It is kind of borderline. But just a lot of the statements about it are just like so inaccurate. It's hard for me to not talk about how inaccurate a lot of these statements are. People saying the life loss doesn't matter in 95% of games is untrue. People saying you can't play a fair plan against the ring is untrue, and is like so provably untrue, and has been happening for 2.5 years. I must talk about I must talk about this when like the agenda posting happens so much. So if they're choosing between my Labyrinth and my Woodland here, they go for the Labyrinth. Spike, the ring came out last year, making you discreditable. So I said a year and a half. I believe the ring came out 15 months ago. So I'm sorry, I'm 2 or 3 months off of my year and a half comment. What's for the 27 months? Thank you, welcome back. June 2023. Is it 14 months or 15 months? I guess that's it. That is 14, huh? Okay, so now I'm going to activate Worldbreaker, sacrificing Labyrinth. It's a little bit risky to sack Lab because I'm going to be out of colorless lands if they draw another Charm. Also, I'm actually going to sack Forest. I'll be more than okay if they Tidebinder this. What do you think of the new band release schedule now tied to RC seasons instead of 6 weeks after set release? It is way better to be tied to RC seasons. I think it was a big mistake and a big problem that like people like were very incentivized to buy a Nadu, and they talked about this in the BNR that they're very incentive to buy Nadu to play in RCQs for 2 or 3 weeks. But then knowing that the deck would very likely be banned shortly after. I think that was a huge problem, and I'm glad they addressed it in the article. So I guess we Chalice on one first. Go after red mana. How do you feel about your Rakdos Phoenix Death Shadow build? I think that deck is worse than Hollow One, kind of clearly. I do think Hollow One has a chance to come and be a real modern deck, though. Do you think the ring will be banned for a similar reason as Twin? I mean, they did not ban the ring today, chat. I don't know if they're going to ban the ring. I'm sorry that they didn't. I know a lot of y'all would have been a lot happier if they had. They did not ban it. I really would prefer to not talk too much about future BNR decisions. We just had one today. I'm sorry they didn't ban it today. Caustic with a 31. Thank you so much. Kind of awkward I can't double spell here, but I think I should probably play Seer. Yeah, the BNR should already be live. It's usually live effectively immediately. Ring has almost no downside index with life gain. I mean, yeah, it's okay. It's also inaccurate, but like another thing about this whole conversation is we've kind of just talked it to death. But another big thing is to say the ring has no downsides is also just like, the fact that it is 4 mana is a pretty big downside in a lot of metagames, like in metagames that are more force of negation heavy, in metagames that are more combo heavy, in metagames that I think I should attack. In metagames that are more combo heavy, in metagames that are more force of negation heavy, it has very big downside to be in on this 4 mana card advantage spell. Additionally, just because it is a 4 mana card, you have to mulligan a lot of hands that you otherwise wouldn't have to mulligan. Is one kind of unstated thing about this card. Okay, so now they get to flame whatever blocker I played and attack me for 6. So we're going to get game 3. Like one way to like illustrate this is back when Up the Beanstalk was printed. When Up the Beanstalk was printed, the difference between Bean and Ring was very clear. Any number of Beanstalks in your opening hand was the nuts. Any number of copies of this at any point in the game was the nuts. If you have 2 copies of Bean in your opening hand, congratulations, you probably can't lose. If you have 2 copies of the Ring, especially if you have 3 lands, you probably are mulliganing. There's a very good chance that your hand just kind of does nothing until turn 4, turn 3 until turn 4, where you have 1 play until turn 4. There's a good chance that you are taking the mulligan action if you have multiple copies of the Ring. And so just being a 4-drop itself inherently is a downside in Modern. Meathook Massacre 2 is the confirmed name of a card in Duskmoor. That is some good news. What's your tier list for RCQ season now? That'd probably be a good video to make. I do think that the Woodlands deck I've been working on is probably very good at the moment. If I was gonna play an RCQ tomorrow, that would be the deck I'd play. Okay, I think on the play against Grixis Wizards, I'll keep. What if today instead of Grief they banned the Ring for unfun reasons? So this is kind of why I'm doing this whole rant right now, and why I'm like entertaining this like kind of dead end discussion, is that it doesn't make sense for them to ban Grief for unfun purposes. It doesn't make sense for them to have done this and leave the Ring legal. That's kind of like the whole point I'm trying to make here, is that their BNR philosophy is really inconsistent in this matter, and it is also just going to make my like that's the big thing. Yes, the BNR ban philosophy is super inconsistent, and I'm frustrated with it. I'm frustrated with Wizards. Their BNR decisions just feel so random. Manguchi says it. The Wizards mostly does things at random, and it just doesn't really ever feel more true than today. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Because if you were going to ban something for play pattern reasons, if you were going to ban something because the vibes are bad and people don't like playing against it, which is basically what they said about Grief, it did not make sense for them to ban Grief instead of the Ring. And that is kind of the whole point I'm trying to make. Weren't we actively mocking the play pattern excuse last month or every time an opponent played again? Yes, and I think I will continue to actively mock people talking about play patterns. And if you haven't picked up on this, which it seems that some of y'all haven't, I'm tired. I am tired of the Ring ban discourse. And I am still tired of it. You know, it has become like this weird movement, this conversation piece that chatters want to talk about every single day, but there isn't new things to talk about. I guess now there is, because of the Grief stuff. But the whole play patterns meme is that the conversation is stale, the dialogue is stale. Every time someone plays the Ring, like, you could almost guarantee that someone in the chat is going to type the words play pattern unironically. You know what I mean? Like that's the joke with the play patterns meme, is this whole dialogue tree, which has become very tired and very stale. And what has me frustrated is if they wanted to ban something based on vibes, based on play patterns, that's okay. They are always like in their right to do that. But I don't understand why they chose to do it. Why would they choose to ban Ring instead of the Grief, or Grief instead of the Ring? They have a consign. Why Chalice main instead of Trinisphere main? I've been thinking that Chalice might be better, but you know, I've been kind of missing the Trinispheres, to be honest. Do you think anything should have been unbanned? Yeah, there's like 6 cards I would love to see come off the ban list. I would have loved to see Splinter Twin, Birthing Pod, Bridge from Below, Umazawa's Jitte, Punishing Fire, and Hypergenesis come off. Okay, maybe I wouldn't have loved Hypergenesis, but Hypergenesis does deserve to come off, in my opinion. So I think we get to double Stone Rain our opponent here via the Tech Edge. Oh, sorry. I really thought I boarded the Tech Edge back in. I guess we just get Woodland now. I should have gone after the Steam Vents. I thought I was going to Tech Edge the Steam Vents. Sorry about that. Pod is kind of scary. So the thing about Pod is, I think Pod is like just almost definitely worse than Birthing Ritual. I think Birthing Ritual, I think, is so much better than Birthing Pod. And that card is also like not even like that good. You had me until Hypergenesis. Hypergenesis is worse than Glimpse for Tomorrow. It is worse than Glimpse for Tomorrow. Hypergenesis would be an unplayable Modern card. Hypergenesis would be unplayable in Modern. Living in players are discussing Press the Enemy and Necro Dominance, so probably dead. Yeah. Like, I mean, the big thing about Living In was, like, you just had this ability to, like, grief your opponent's hate card or force him negation it, then, like, then slam your thing. And grief could just hit any grief card, but, like, force and subtlety don't hit everything. So, like, losing grief is huge problem. I'm starting to feel like you didn't like today's bans. I guess I'm sorry I've given you that impression. Like, I think the bans today are fine. It's not what I would have done. But what I am frustrated with is the seeming, like, very inconsistent ban philosophy that Wizards has. It, like, I just more and more so, I think I should say no to this because these are all like 3-drops and I just have 2 3-drops in my hand. More and more so, I just am getting frustrated with the Wizards does things at random meme. Like, it becomes very difficult to, like, have, like, confidence in their ability to manage the ban list. It becomes very difficult to feel comfortable, like, buying into a deck because you kind of get a vibe on, like, what stuff Wizards bans and what's they don't, because their reasoning for, like, leaving or banning grief and leaving ring legal are incredibly inconsistent and just hypocritical. Just hypocritical in the same B&R announcement. And it makes and I think that is why chat is so frustrated with the ban decision. And that is a frustration I'm trying to express to y'all today. Break with the 25 months. Thank you so much. Well, luckily you are not a Wizards employee because I'm very happy with today's bans. I know it's not an aspiring spike stream unless facts, no fiction, tries to get me pissed off in chat. But another thing I feel very frustrated with is I feel like I'm trying so hard to communicate things, and people, like, facts in the chat, it almost feels like they're doing whatever they can to misrepresent my points or take what I'm saying out of context or misconstrue them. Because how could, like, I said, I am what actually happened with today's bans I'm happy with, but what they said in their article is incredibly hypocritical and is making me lose faith in their ability to manage the ban list. And for you to say, I'm happy you're not a Wizards employee because I'm happy with today's bans is honestly just because you're a hater, facts, which you have been for a long time, but also is just so intentionally misconstruing what I'm saying. It's frustrating for me. Like, I don't even know how you could really like argue the opposite. That, like, that what they said in this BNR today was pretty hypocritical and inconsistent. Why not ban people that consistently annoy you in chat on purpose? I've been thinking about banning facts. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. But to some extent, like, I really like to try to communicate. I like to try to talk about it. I like to try to change people's minds. I like to try to convince people and you know, have I feel like on this channel people get less Reddit brained. I think people get less Twitter brained when they come and they watch my stream. I like to think so, at least. I like to think that people become more knowledgeable of the format. They can start thinking for themselves better. They can use information better. I think we have productive dialogues. And I don't want to change that. I don't want to change that. I want to embrace that, like I have tried to in the past. Just being honest, man. Well, are you being honest? Because it just feels so disingenuous what you're saying. Like I you know, and it's in the facts, I do genuinely want to talk about it, and I want to improve dialogues, but I just don't understand how you hear me say there being what I'm upset with is not the ban decisions. What I'm upset with is not the ban decisions, but their reasoning for the ban decisions and how I'm losing faith and how contradictory this article was. And for you to say, well, I'm happy you're not a Wizards employee because I like today's bans. Like, for me, like, and your response to that is, I'm just being honest. I want to improve this dialogue. I want to improve these conversations. What can we do to do that? Mortician with the 5-pack. Thank you so much. Nan with 3 months. Thank you so much. Am I pro or anti One Ring? I am ring neutral. For me, I just wanted to see what Modern looked like, no ring. And it seems that we're not gonna get that anytime soon. So I can cast Mycospawn and Wumpus, or I can kick a Mycospawn and get like a Tech Edge, but then I would have to imprint the Devourer. I guess I have to imprint Devourer if I'm also gonna do Mycospawn into Wumpus. I think I'm gonna go Mycospawn into Wumpus to just put as much power and toughness into play. I don't really like taking a line that makes me worse against discard spells here. Full Wagon, 45 months. Thank you. Welcome back. Is Woodland's Omni totally insane? I think it's probably very good, yeah. We'll probably play it in a tournament this weekend. So excited to jam this deck now that Nod is gone. Yeah, I don't know if you're supposed to be on Trinisphere or Chalice. I am excited about this deck again. I do wish today I was just more excited. I wish today was a bit more, finally everything is a little bit more relaxed. But it's hard for me to feel more relaxed when the announcement was just so contradictory. It was just so contradictory, and it just is hard to like understand like what Wizards is trying to do with Modern as a format. Bubba with the tier 1 for 6 months. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Yeah, I agree. It's like, yeah, like I'm sure like every player who's playing Grief in Modern is surprised that their card was banned. You know, it like this is just a format where Grief has just not been performing very well. Yeah, just gonna do Dark Souls no hit anyways. It will play it out, but this is gonna be tough. They found another Shieldred. Makes me wonder if they have an obligation to license owner that they won't ban their namesake card for some time. Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's like this inconsistency leads to these kind of like conspiratorial, like, oh, they have this agenda for the ring, and like all of these conversations happen because they're so contradictory in their own articles. Our blue card density mitigates and potential for being unplayable before turn 3, the reason why Binding isn't played in Control. We've talked about Binding so much in Control, Menomaniac. Honestly, I think that the Jeskai decks have just been misbuilt for a little while. They soul spike me instead of the Seer. And then they don't do anything. So I'm going to go down to 9, and then if green gets reprint soon, it'll force the thinking and people will riot. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like it just feels so bad. It just feels bad. I agree. The thing that did it for me is Michael stating, ultimately, my intention to create a build around aimed at commander play, which resulted in the final text in relation to Nadu. Commander continues. Yeah, that was also a very frustrating moment today. I agree. I mean, it honestly seems kind of like obvious in retrospect. Are they going to Undying Effect? Or are they going to March? Oh, cool. Forgot that this gave Indestructible. Yeah, it's like why, like if Nadu was intended to only be a commander card, it should not have been in the modern product of MH3. If you're gonna have commander MH3, this was a like how this happened is just so upsetting. Yeah, it's like yeah. How were like net Pyrogoyf, the 3-mana Barrelgoyf, like these cards could have been modern cards instead of instead of commander cards. I don't know. I do respect Michael for, you know, like admitting the mistakes and like typing this out. I'm sure that wasn't easy, and y'all should, you know, not give him too much shit about this stuff, because ultimately it has got to be a very hard thing to like type this stuff up knowing that everyone's going to yell at you. And it is nice to know like how these mistakes happened, but it's just frustrating. It's very hard to know like what Wizards wants Modern to be and where they want to go with the format when they have BNRs like today. Yeah, and also, yeah, that is a good point. Nadu is also not a balanced commander card. That is a great point. Yeah, and the communication is good. I agree that the communication is good, even if, you know, we're frustrated about it. Okay, do they have another Bowmaster for the last point of damage? I know you're really big on Force Negation and Phoenix decks. What do you think about Flare of Denial? Because Dimulich is actually a card that you can sacrifice with not enough blue creatures. I think it's not enough blue creatures. And also the thing is, it's like with Force, you get to force their thing, and then you get to like get value with the Dimulich and recover from the card disadvantage. But sacking your Dimulich is kind of awkward because you really want to untap and attack with it. But if you could sack Phoenix for value, it'd be good. There's a whole team of people taking the lead on it. It's kind of whatever. I mean, I don't know. It's got to be a tough thing to do, and I think it is good that they're being transparent with with some of these things. They're not being transparent enough, and some of their inconsistencies are frustrating. Is where I'm at. Okay, let's cut these Wumpies. Breaker's really good against them. Trinisphere is also pretty good against them. So is Chalice. Do something like 3/3 and 3/6s. I think we're taking the Breaker here. So when I'm print Devourers, they can't Thoughtseize me off of my Ugin's Lab. And then we can play a 6 on turn 2. You haven't run into any energy that I've seen, so you might be lacking the data points. Do you think it'd be reasonable to drop an Acid-Moss for 3rd Breaker in the sideboard? I have the All Is Dust in the sideboard kind of with the intention of using those as the anti-energy cards. Breaker being 8 mana instead of 7 is kind of slow, but yeah, maybe. I do think Breaker is good against them too. We have 6 mana next turn, so a little short of casting. I mean, obviously never casting Breaker next turn, but I missed the funeral for Nadu. Holding that later. Nadu deserves no funeral. Our Modern tournament going to be 50% Mardu and Boros energy? Honestly, I kind of hope it's like that for a little bit. I kind of hope that Modern is like all energy decks for a while. Because if that's the case, the format will be very exploitable. I'll be playing Woodland's Omniscience combo and just farming them all day. Splashing red for Kozilek's return. You could do that. Wouldn't it be easy on the mana? I was working on a green-red Eldrazi build. I was playing Rumble and like Phoenix to fuel Rumble, and I was trying to play like Oliphant and Generous into 2 for Phoenix, but the mana was kind of not super functional and super weak to Blood Moon. Our Securame has been at least 50% energy. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like... So, like, one thing that I think is probably frustrating about fighting energy as an archetype is if you want to beat it, you can't really just, like, sideboard a few cards for it and all of a sudden have a good matchup if you're playing something like Frog or if you're playing, like, Jund or Burn or something that, like, has, like, or, like, Prowess, something that has, like, pretty bad energy matchups. But you can switch archetypes and farm them. Do you run into main deck White Orchid Phantom at all? Is that even a great card for rescue? I don't run into it very often, and I would say that it's not a particularly good card against this deck. It's like fine, but you have a lot of basics, and it's good, but you have a lot of basics. You're not nearly as weak to it as like Tron would be. All right, so if they have interaction into Necro, it's going to be tough. Okay, looks like it'll be tough. Do you think Flage is a problematic card in Modern? Honestly, not at all. Not at all. Flage is a good Modern card, and maybe it just is like the decks I've been playing, but like I don't have this Flage angst syndrome that it seems like some people have. It is just like I just think it's like one of the most beatable cards in this format, and kind of like the ring. I just come to like basically every match with like a plan against Flage and a plan against the ring, and I beat the card sometimes and I lose the card sometimes, but it's just not a card that I feel this big angst about. I don't know. Like we've talked about this a lot too, and like one interesting thing about this Flage dialogue tree that we can have is Flage the best card in Boros? Because I think I would probably say Guide, Pride, Ajani, and Amped Raptor are all better cards than Flage at this point. That's kind of my opinion. Is that those 5 1s and 2 drops are more important for the Boros deck than Flage is. And I think it's fine to disagree. I think you could say I think it is close. I think it's close in the power level of these cards, and I think you could make an argument that Flage is better, and that we could have that argument and talk about it. But for me, I don't think it's even the best card in the Boros deck. Yeah, I kind of think Amped Raptor is the best card in Boros, but it kind of varies, I guess, on what you hit. What decks do you think are favored versus Energy, and why, if I may ask? So combo decks in general. So you're going to be looking at Ruby Storm, Woodlands combo, Goryo's. Although Goryo's, we'll see how that lands post ban. Are good against Boros because they just don't play much interaction. They don't usually kill very quickly. I guess we'll play this out. And you usually just get to ignore them and combo kill them. And then Jeskai, I think, is also good against Energy because Wrath the Skies is like the formula of Ring plus Wrath the Skies plus Flage is good against them too. I played like 100 leagues with Boros. For me, 100% Guide of Souls is the best card in Boros. Yeah, I think saying Guide is the best card is very very reasonable too. I think without Johnny, the deck would struggle to finish a lot of matchups. I agree. I think you could make a great case for Guide, maybe not Pride, because Pride is like just so clearly weak to well, what a chop deck. Guide is so clearly weak to Bowmasters, but I think you could make a good case for a Johnny Amped Raptor Guide of Souls Flage. Pride is also really really absurd card, but you can make a good argument for all of these. But and they're all very close in power level. They're all very close in power level. You never mentioned Through the Breach. Do you see problems with it? Through the Breach is another deck that is very good against Energy. It is probably a deck I need to be thinking a little bit more about when I'm talking about metagame percentages and like what's good against Energy, a good way to counter it. But yeah, I do think this is an example of a deck that's good to counter Energy. Yeah, and another thing talking about Boros and like what's the best card in the archetype is it's like all of these cards just play so well together. If you're a fair deck trying to answer Boros Energy with Pyroclasm type effects, Flage often ends up being a card you lose to. It's not what gives the deck powerful, gives them a different angle. I agree with this too. Flage is also a big part of the reason why I don't love the Ring in Boros as a deck, because you just kind of have this like late game 4-mana card that closes games pretty well. Play patterns, am I right? Think about Ragavan right now in the meta. Well, the meta's going to change a lot. One thing is that Ragavan was, I think, pretty good against Goryo's, and then Goryo's is that deck still going to be one of the better decks in the format? I don't know. I kind of in the same way, I tend to like kind of forget about Through the Breach. I also kind of forget, like, I think a lot of people forget that Goryo's is just one of the better modern decks. So I mean, again, the answer is I don't really know. But like Ragavan is good against Tron, it's good against Through the Breach, it's good against Living End, but a lot of these decks have got nerfed. They do run on this deck of playing position in the meta. I mean, the meta is just really different, but this is a deck that kind of simply I thought was pretty bad against Nadu. We top 8 a challenge with it. kind of before Nadu really took over everything. It was pre-Pro Tour, and I wanted to circle back to it. I don't want to see energy bans. I'd like to see hate cards for it in other colors. Cleanser shouldn't be the only real answer. I hear this echoed a lot, but I don't know. There are a lot of ways to attack the deck. Not only via Sun Cleanser, but sweepers and combo decks and Sun Cleanser are all pretty good against it. Which for me, I just kind of feel like that's enough, you know. I also, you know, I think one big thing with this build too is I ended up cutting like one of the green sources, and there's just been like several times we've just been missing an untapped green for Fanatic. You see the red black list that runs through the Breaching Gorios. I didn't. We played a Mardu build that played both recently. Yeah, Culling Ritual, especially out of this deck, very good against them too. Wrath of Skies gets a huge buff. I don't know if I agree with that, because Wrath of Skies was certainly one of the better cards against Nadu. I think they want more interaction with the energy mechanic. I mean, I do think that is what they mean, but I just am a little confused, like why that's so important when like you just have cards and stuff that are good against the shell overall. You know what I mean? The article, I was really hoping that the article would give me a bit more confidence in what they're doing with the format, but it was pretty upsetting. Okay, so I think we're supposed to keep and look for a double land off the Devourer. Yeah, in Pioneer 2, it's very silly, I think, that they banned Amalia and Sword and not Treasure Cruise, which Cruise, I think, from what I understand about the format, arguably the biggest problem. Hedge Mage been pending. I think I just need a double land so much. Let's say no to all these. Am I still considering leaving the format for a bit? I mean, I know, like, it's kind of weird because like what they said and what they did and what they said is, I don't know. I'm not gonna try to go no hit Dark Souls right now, and I don't think the actual like mechanics of what they did were bad. Again, it's just what they said in the article makes me uneasy for their vision for the format. Aether Claw, 43 months. Thank you. Welcome back. Ginger said Phoenix is the best deck hands down now. I mean, I would not be surprised that it was. I mean, I feel like maybe it was already like the best deck. The Delve cards being legal is a big attractor of Pioneer. Not saying it should be banned, but I feel like that's the reason. I mean, that is definitely their reasoning. I kind of think that this dynamic is super overstated. The amount of people that like love that the Delve cards are legal. But also, you know, I shouldn't really comment too much on Pioneer. I haven't been playing it. King Lambo with the 15 months. Thank you. Welcome back. Kind of annoying thing about the BNR is the reasoning for banning Grief will become the new turn 4 format reference point and BNR discoins forever. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's just like, I would just love like a more consistent ban philosophy and a vision for Modern that can be something that you can feel a bit more confident in and like understand what like Wizards wants Modern to be, so you can. Okay, that was a great top deck for them. Is Gen Creativity a decent deck or not? I don't think it's very good, honestly. I guess I should probably get that Force of Negation out of their hand. I guess I draw Kozilek's return command. Do you see stuff about Raptor being better than testing what they printed? I mean, I'm not surprised, but like, people I do think are kind of highlighting that part of the article that like Raptor used to like be more similar to Cascade or something, and then they nerfed it. But like, I'm not surprised because like I'm sure there were several cards that were too strong in testing and pulled back. You know, that part of the article I didn't really feel like I cared much about. So hope we draw another Temple or a Labyrinth and can devour the Gristlebrand here. Nice. Lucky me. Yeah, to me, honestly, this whole season has just been so angsty and so tiring. Like to have like a month and a half where a card needs to be banned and isn't is a big problem. And I am gonna attack here so they go to 1 and can't crack the fetch. And you know, it would be good if Wizards could come out and talk about what the vision for formats are these days, because it just, things have changed so often and like so much over the years, and I think they intentionally don't say this stuff because they want to keep it open. They, like Wizards, I think when they manage the ban list, they really want the ability to do whatever they want. They want the ability to ban stuff at a moment's notice. They want the ability to stick to the schedule if it fits them better in the moment. They don't want to have to say what they want formats to be. They don't want to have to like say this stuff out loud. But it's just, I think, becoming probably too much of a problem. Hilarious that they wanted to keep to the schedule and change it again. Yeah, I know, it's just like they never really stuck to the schedule in the past, and the fact that they just have now decided to and then undecided to, it's just, how can you be confident in like what they're gonna do? I think this is 100% on point, and the return of Foundations, the core set, is them conceding that it leads to fuzzy color pie designs. Yeah, maybe that's the case. Yeah. Yeah, they're sticking to the schedule and changing the schedule in the same post. And they're also, you know, not banning something, banning something because of vibes, and also, I don't know, saying something that we might ban something. I don't know. It's just all over the place today. Like I said before, I think sticking with a schedule is probably a good thing, and it should give them more flexibility with unbans, because everyone would know a specific amount of time could be live for a case that needs to be rebanned. I agree with this to some extent, but if that was the case, like they scheduled their BNRs really poorly, because they had one pre-Pro Tour and then not another one for a month and a half. So if they are going to stick to it, their schedules need to be better. Oh, sorry, I dragged this out and then didn't drag it in. Yeah, they talk about banning Grief because it's in a lot of different decks, and then in the same article they use the fact that the ring goes in a lot of different decks as like a justification for keeping it legal. You know, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I know, like the whole Wizards, like the Wizards do things at random meme is just, it has never been more true until today. Yeah, I know they acknowledge their timing was bad. I mean, it's just such a mess, and this mess just didn't need to happen, and we'll clean it up, I guess. I could keep Kozilek's command, or I could just keep nothing. I think I'll keep the command. I like Chalice over Sphere. I'm not sure. I think I need to get more reps in with it, but at the moment I am disliking the second Chalice over another green source, and I'm disliking... Ooh, they multi-4, but maybe we'll get turn 2 Atraxid. I'm disliking, I think the 4-0 split of Trinisphere. I think maybe like a 2-2 would be good. Alright, nice multi-4. Havoc with the 32 months. Thank you, welcome back. I think people would have been upset if they only banned Nadu and Modern with no other changes to the format. So me personally, like, I would have been, I think, more happy with that being the case. Just like, hey, sorry, we fucked up. We fucked up. We like, here's how we messed up the design of Nadu. I love that they released that article on the design of Nadu and what went wrong. And we fucked up. Nadu should have been banned a month ago. We're stick to our guns. Nadu's banned now. We'll revisit this stuff later. To me, that would have been like a consistent. Okay, so they put in their hand Marshflat's Ephemerate and Ulamog. They didn't put Consign into their hand. So I think I'm just going to hold up the command here. To me, that would have been a consistent article, a consistent BNR thing. But instead, what they did was they did the Nadu thing, and then they gave a very odd reason for banning Grief that was in direct contradiction to their reasons for not banning the ring that was in the same article. And that is, again, why I'm so frustrated today. Don't worry, the ring will go eventually. Again, personally, I'm not upset that the ring wasn't banned. I'm just upset that they're managing the format in such a random and unpredictable way. And inconsistent way. I guess that's the same thing as random. So I'm going to go Thought-Knot Seer into 6 here. But with what they literally did, I do think Modern as a format will be better. I think that it will be more fun and interesting. And I, am hopeful that they get their shit together. I'm happy there's a home for Waterlog teachings. I think the first teachings in this archetype is pretty all right. I don't think I'd play many more than one copy. So I think I'm just gonna, oh my gosh, misclick. Horrible misclick. And then play Fanatic of Rhonas. I meant to cast Thought-Knot Seer and then cast a Fanatic. Thanks, Muser. Yeah, it's good. I am definitely kind of like rambling Dan. But it's okay. I don't know. It's I'm only rambling so much because I care. And I'll probably do like a YouTube video later today and kind of get my thoughts a little bit more in order too. Sorry, I guess I also should have played around the Ephemerate a bit better. What do you think the deck footprint of Necro going forward? I mean, this is very buzzwordy deck footprints. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's not an archetype I've worked on very much or played a ton of. I think that there are a lot of different directions you can go. Obviously, kind of a non-answer, I guess. I think that it's possible that with Grief Band, you are interested in playing Cabal Coffers as a shell. Like with Nadu in the format, like you just suspend Profane Tutor and then you're dead to Nadu before this comes off the thing. I do want to spend some time working on it tonight. Yeah, I agree. The design for Commander stuff is also there's a lot of frustrating elements about today. And then again, because this is an important day to have this dialogue, like, and why I'm going so hard on this today is that, like, the fact that I'm this frustrated about this, and that we're all like, a lot of people are frustrated about a lot of different things, when Wizards had like a month and a half, 2 months to figure this out and to like deliver a message that could have been better received is tough too. That being said, I do think Michael's article, just being very transparent on what happened, is is awesome, and even if it's frustrating, I hope they keep putting that stuff out. I think that stuff is like really really important, for whatever that's worth. But Commander is easily the worst thing ever to ever happen to MTG design. I mean, it's kind of hard to say this because like that is in one big way a big part of what's beautiful about Magic is there's a million ways to play the game, and there's also a million different people. There are millions of different types of people in this world, and different formats and different ways to play the game are just going to appeal to different people. And so it's Commander has been the most popular format of Magic's history by a lot. And that doesn't necessarily mean Wizards has handled that in a super good way. But it's kind of tough for them to ignore that it's the most popular format by a long time. If people continue to lose their minds when someone admits a design mistake, though, I'll guarantee they'll stop being so transparent. Maybe. I mean, it does seem like it's part of their philosophy to be transparent on this stuff, despite people losing their minds. Like, it would have been nice, and maybe I'm going to reread all the articles and stuff today before I do a YouTube video today. But it would have been nice in Michael's article if he had said something to the effect of, you know, we messed up by intentionally designing a card for Commander without putting it in the Commander only product, and this is something we've decided we're not going to do again. Like it would have just kind of been for me as simple as saying that, for me to have been like much happier with that part of the announcement. Commander as a format is good. Commander as intentional design space is bad. Commander became popular before WotC acknowledged it. There's some half truths in there, I think. I guess I should just make spawns in Scry, actually. Why wasn't the ring banned as well, though? I mean, that's kind of the whole thing we're rambling about here, is that it was a very, very inconsistent philosophy in this BNR. A lot of contradictions. Are we losing to Storm yet? I haven't seen Storm today. Storm, I think there's a good chance Storm gets worse post-ban. It's going to be kind of weird. Where Storm is now like the turn 3 deck. Storm is now the fastest deck in Modern. It is maybe going to be the way to like hate out energy. It's going to be maybe a good way to hate out Titan and Yawgmoth if they become popular. But it's also an archetype that gets significantly easier to beat now that sideboards open up, with people having to play less sideboard cards for Nadu. We're keeping the Temple and the Command here. When MTG is a 1v1 card game, you can make the argument that Commander isn't the same. I really feel, one thing I feel very strongly about in my like Magic beliefs is that one of the best things about this game is that there are a ton of different ways to play, and there are and hold on, should put this in the hand. Play. I guess I should probably just World Breaker next turn. One of the best things about Magic as a game is that there are a ton of ways to play it, and these various ways appeal to a variety of different players. There's no right way to play Magic, and there's no wrong way to play Magic. That is one of the best parts about this, and I know, despite how frustrated we might be about this today, I think that's not something we should ever lose. That's not something we should ever forget when we're thinking about Magic and having discussion days like this today. So Borg with the 45 months. Thank you. Welcome back. Appreciate you. Yeah, except for Nadu. That was the wrong way. I think Storm is just too fragile to be a best deck. I think it'll likely be like a metagame thing, right? Because like kind of simply put, if no one in Modern has a sideboard card for Storm. You're going to win your Modern tournament almost undefeated. Like if people are just not going to register lock pieces, you are going to dominate your Modern tournaments. Take 2 plus. Nah, get that. If in this extreme example where no one plays sideboard cards for it, it's kind of like this weird existential threat. I feel in that way. Bring in the mosses. Gonna cut the chalices. Also bringing in Emrakul. Go down on devourers because they're pretty bad here. So but it's also, you know, a lot of the sideboard cards you can play for Storm kind of incidentally can do stuff in other matchups, and as Storm, it's kind of tough to prep for all the sideboard cards people can bring in against you. And so I agree that it's going to be very difficult for Storm to be the best deck in the format. Doing Caverns on the play. Sorry, I forgot that I sorry about that. Obviously, I'm mostly just rambling and ranting today with some magic in the background. Can Storm look for alternate win conditions? I mean, win conditions doesn't really seem to be the problem, but I do think, you know, playing stuff like Channeler and Questing Druid and Gigantha allows you to beat hate cards more often just by attacking. Can we unban Fury now? I mean, the opportunity cost of leaving it on the ban list is pretty low. It is maybe kind of a scary card to unban, but I do think that the decision to ban Fury over Grief, especially right now, is just feeling so silly. Hey, Penguin. I played against a new Storm player for FNM, and their only artifact hate was a Braid. Played Chalice on 2, both games 2 and 3. Yeah, it's tough for sure. What do you think about unbanning Deathray? I think unbanning Deathray Shaman would be a big mistake. A lot of this opinion comes from my like time in Timeless, and this was pre-MH3, but Shaman was like the best one drop in the format. In my testing in that format, I was like better than Ragavan and Channeler. Now you have Guide and Pride, and it's kind of different. But the problem with unbanning Deathrite Shaman is the card is just so versatile. The card is a hybrid one drop that can be played in any deck with fetch lands. And okay, my opponent's on a mold of 5. I'm going to 4, seeing 3 1-landers in a row. Okay, and then I want to keep. Can I? Okay, this is a 4-card hand, so I guess I'm putting back these 3. Opponent's thinking about their 5, but it's just really ubiquitous. So if you were to unban Deathrite Shaman, you would kind of be like resigning yourself to a world where. So I think we keep the Labyrinth, so that if we draw an imprintable, we can Acid-Moss on turn 3, or if we draw a land, we can Acid-Moss on turn 3. You're resigning yourself to a world where Deathrite Shaman is very likely to show up in every single top 8 of every single tournament until it possibly comes back off the ban list. You know, like if Shaman was unbanned, it would probably be kind of a rare thing for a Deathrite Shaman deck to not top 8 an event, if that makes sense. And if that's the case, if you unban a card and top 8, it's going to top 8 most events forever. Probably just should not have come off the ban list. So I would have loved another mana here to go Wumpus into Acid-Moss. I think I'm just going to Acid-Moss first here too, because I can go now Wumpus into tap Fanatic for 4, possibly next turn. I also want to stop them from Null Driftering if possible. What are the matchups you want to bring Emrakul in for? You bring it in against Eldrazi Mirrors and Jeskai Control. Also like decks like Jeskai Control, so 4-color Omnath. I'd say Modern would be worse with Shaman, but never deck. Yeah. I don't think the gameplay would be awful with Shaman. Shaman's a very like revered and loved card. 1 on the mold of 4. But again, the problem is more so that like if you unban Shaman, you're kind of accepting a world where that card probably is in like every Modern top 8 until forever. And so that's probably just enough of an argument to not do it. At least that's been my okay, I'm gonna be right back. Be your friend, Aspiring Spike. Okay. Sorry about that. Sorry about this whole stream too. Yeah, I'm gonna do a YouTube video on the BNR stuff tonight. The Mycospawn. As far as the backlash to separate an article, I do think it's tough that the exact same problem that's produced stuff like Skullclamp and Oko is still present during design. Yeah, for sure. I mean, absolutely very valid criticism, good criticism even. To some extent, however, you know, card design is just never going to be perfect. It's never going to be. I think I'm going to just try to find impactful play for next turn rather than making spawns to cast one of these cards from my hand because I have so many lands. You know, card design is never going to be perfect. And okay, yeah, so we'll just go cast 6 next turn and then we can start kicking Mycospawns. Never going to be perfect. And it is frustrating that like some of these like the stuff is still present. I absolutely agree, but it's the kind of stuff I guess I might say I'm just like a little bit more. Ooh, nice 3 cards to have in their hand. Like how do you design around not making mistakes? Is maybe that's a good way to put it. Like yes, they're gonna make mistakes, but how do you design that out of the the process? So I can't double spell here. You design around mistakes by banning the cards. Yeah, I mean, yes, I think that's probably about all you can do. But to have this saying like the same problem with Skull Clamp and the same problem as this, it's like I don't know. Like there's it's never you can't really expect a perfect process. Yeah, and then you know one thing too is it's better for people to be hot and cold and feel very passionate. It's better for this to be the reality than to have a reality where people don't care. Ideally, it would be nice for everyone to love everything, but this is also just not very realistic. So I think I have to block here and then take. Okay, that's death. Go to 1 and then leave without the Fleshraker in play. I vote the Grief Ban. I don't know. I don't know. Do I have enough mana to Mycospawn into Breaker? If I play this, I have 9 mana. This is basically 2, so I'm a mana short. I don't think this quite stabilizes me. Mingu had an interesting take on the Grief Ban. I'll take a look at like a Mingu tweet. Like how do you how would that ever possibly? I know you're just saying ideal world, but yeah, it just seems how would that ever possibly be balanced or like cohesive? Like Violet with the 12 months happy anniversary, appreciate you. Independent committee like Commander RC, yeah, it's my impression that people don't really like the Commander Council or whatever because they just kind of don't. They prefer to not manage it. They kind of prefer to say, oh, you can you can just house rule ban cards that are you can house rule bans and unbans, but I think I don't know if people feel like they should be more proactive or not. Not that I play enough Commander to really know. That's quite a hand. That is quite a hand. Yeah, I have the Mingu tweet pulled up. I'm just gonna sideboard real quick and then take a look. The more I think about it, this ban list might actually be worse than the Fury one. They banned a card Grief that was only played in 2 decks that aren't even at the top. I agree with this completely. It would have been since last year. Now it's complete nonsense. I'm really unhappy about this. And like now, obviously, you have to play the ring if you want to win. €100 card that will raise even more soon, and they will obviously need to ban it next BNR when people lose €500 to it. Those getting really bad lately. Modern used to be so good. Yeah, I mean, well, I think it's a bit early to like. We'll see what the modern is. I was really excited to just see what a world was like post Nadu. I'm glad that Mingu's feeling similarly to me. Mulligan. Just like not a functional's hands. Yu-Gi-Oh! Ideology taking over, printing push cards, and then ban them and print even more push cards. So we kind of touched on this today, and like another reason why I'm so melancholy today, you could say, is that I had just gained a lot of faith in like Wizards design philosophies over the last few years. Like when you talk about like the 2019 to 2021 era, this more broken cards, more push cards, more broken cards was way more of a thing than it is now. Like if you go from the War of the Spark to Call Time era, it's like every single set has like multiple design mistakes. Every single set just has big design mistakes, and it was just such a frustrating time, and it just had felt like we were out of that era, and this feels like a big step back, you know. Yeah, War of the Spark to Call Time, it's like every set has like Nadu level design mistakes. It's like Karn Lattice in War of the Spark to Fairy Time Raveler. Like, I mean, they might have a Bolt. I guess we'll play around Bolt since we do have outs. If we didn't have like outs to this or something, we would just kind of hope they're punting. But it's like Throne of Eldraine was like, you know, more design mistakes than any Modern Horizon set. With Mystic Sanctuary Oko Once Upon a Time. Okay, no Lucky All is Dust. Yeah, Uro, Oko, Companions, MDFCs, Omnath, Field of the Dead, Veil of Summer, Mystic Sanctuary, Astrolabe, already said this. And so it's like I have been feeling for a long time like we were like out of this era. And I think we are still out of the design era, but this BNR today just is giving me big fire design era vibes.